I wanted from the start to make Blade 2 an absolute comic book movie.
There hadn't been a lot of good comic book movies made. There have been a lot of horrible films made, and I'm very proud of the fact that Blade is frequently cited as being one of the best comic book movies ever. And I think that the sequel, in almost every way, tops what we did in the first film.
Because when you read a comic book, you're never saying to yourself, oh, well, this is just all in good fun. You're entering into that universe. And that we're taking the exact same approach here.
And it gives us an opportunity to revitalize what we think is a good superhero and good representation of comic book films, and some new flavor to the whole vampire genre at the same time.
34, take one, A only.
The power of the vampire nation lies here.
Well, it was much easier than the first one because the vision had been established.
Okay, cut, print.
Printing.
Check the gate.
My first job was convince David Goyer to return as a writer, because he actually, at the beginning of this process, didn't want to write the script.
I like to make hybrid movies. It's this strange hybrid of action, science fiction, horror with this comic sensibility. And I knew there were certain things we wanted to do in this film that we hadn't done in the first film, that we wanted to make this film scarier. And I know that's something that Guillermo is incredibly good at. And he knew I was writing Blade 2, and I kept saying to him, when I'm done, we're going to be coming for you, we're going to be coming for you. And he said, yeah, but you know that I want to make it scarier, that's what I do. And we said, we know. We're going to have all the action that we did in the first film, but also this film is very scary.
Move your head to the left, Das. To the left. There, let him bite you. Move the head in a sucking motion. Very good. Sucking. Excellent. Sucking. Bite him. Let him go closer to his neck. And cut. Cut. Das, something happened? Got it. Something happened.
We actually came up with the storyline and a first draft pretty quickly. We developed the script independently without a director, and then showed it to Guillermo, who had some wonderful additions and subtractions. And you know, he's a very different kind of filmmaker than Norrington, but Guillermo understood what worked in the first movie, and was very excited about keeping that kind of baseline and amplifying it in places, and then also bringing what he does.
They came to me the first time, and I read the screenplay, and it was Reapers transforming into everything, and tunnels, sewers. And I said, tunnels and sewers and something transforming? I did that movie. I don't want to go through it again. I mean, people are going to think I created the sewers for the second one. They were there from the start, and then I read it the second time, and the idea of the blood pack of the group that joins Blade was much more fun.
I went to the end of the staircase, and then I made a right. Now,
Don't make a right.
well, I got to make a right to go up the stairs.
Then, when you go higher sooner,
Can I show them where it's supposed to be? Okay.
and then David and I talked on the phone a little bit on the second time, and I said to him, this is really cool because it's like the Dirty Dozen of vampire. And I asked New Line for every single piece of film shot by Norrington on the first one. And I went in and I watched, I saw every single piece of raw dailies in that movie. Everyone, all the takes. And then I analyzed the movie. And then I said, this is what I don't want to do with it. This is what I'm going to preserve because I wanted to give it continuity. And after analyzing every single piece of dailies, I knew what the style of the fight was, and I knew how to amp it up one step or two. How to make it the logical evolution of what Norrington had proposed on that one. And I wanted very hard to serve the franchise. Would it be better if after you put the cylinder, you move first?
Make you uncomfortable that I go behind your back? Because you're like...
Well, no, yeah, that's what I played. I played the doors coming down, all you motherfuckers. I remember I got this shit right here.
Exactly. Then he turns, the Steadicam will be waiting for him there.
Yes, sir.
He will start coming down, and then Steadicam will push towards him, meet halfway, and we will bring him all the way to the leg. Because he's so active with the hands, if we could, we have Whistler here, Blade here. I'll move Blade a little bit, cheat the island, and maybe a second camera there just for the sound.
Okay, so third camera for the hands, right? So that would be commander over there for the hands. You get the close-up there with Donnie over the long length post, and the steady cam. Yes. No problem.
This is evidently a wonderful expositional scene, and the thing is to try to keep it fluid. Sure. He will be basically the one that weaves the whole dialogue.
Roll! Please, rolling!
It's a stretch for Guillermo because he's kind of nodding to where we've been before. So he's not throwing it out. He's merely adding his own touches where they're appropriate. Blade himself is a full-born character. He's a very, very alienated, dark character who's got some scores to settle, you know, within the context of being half man, half vampire, and hating suckheads, as he calls them. But it's all deadly serious. And I think that's what kind of sets it apart.
I tend to gravitate towards anti-heroes. I'm doing another project now, Ghost Rider, also a Marvel comic, and I tend to enjoy writing characters that are shades of gray, and I loved all the Clint Eastwood films, The Man with No Name, and I don't regard Blade as being a superhero per se. He's a deeply tortured character. He hates himself, and by extension, he hates the vampires, and I tend to think that those characters, at least for me, are more interesting to write.
They are ready whenever you are, Daywalker.
Blade is a character that sees the world in black and white. I'm not saying it's morally right or wrong, and I think that Blade is that type of character. It's a character that has a very small dramatic arc. Very small. You know, you don't see Blade come out at the end of the movie and say, "I shall embrace all forms of life." You know, it's not. That's not what is that character about, and that's part of the comic book mythology. I was a fan of the comics he appeared on, but I was not a fan of the Blade character. You know, the Blade character in the comics was very, very boring visually and very predictable. I thought it was like a one-note, jive-talking, like Mod Squad type of character that was just like an African-American written by a white guy that really didn't understand the sensibility except through the Shaft movies he had seen. So I didn't relate to that. I thought Mark Wolfman wrote a great Dracula, but didn't write a great Blade. And when I saw the movie, I was blown away. I was like, oh my God, someone got it. You know, someone, and it was Norrington. Norrington got it, Wesley got it. I mean, I think that having worked with Wesley, I know how much of Wesley is in the first movie, and it's a lot. I mean, Wesley is.
Both Goyer and I have been fans of Guillermo's since Kronos. And we were actually interested in him directing the first Blade.
Which would have been a catastrophe. You know, I think that going from Kronos to Blade 1 would have been like a shock therapy. Because I think that Mimic has more things in common with Kronos in terms of atmosphere and so forth. Kronos to Mimic was a leap. Then Mimic to Devil's Backbone was like going back and finding my personality on certain things with the camera. And then Blade 2 was absolutely 100% just pure fun.
Ready? And action! Unhook the cylinder, go with the cylinder. Look at her briefly. Perfect. One more.
And I think that one of the things that I took very seriously doing Blade 2 was, this was, as Devil's Backbone was a chance for me to grow, quote unquote, as an artist. Blade 2 was a chance for me to grow enormously as a craftsman. And I took it in stride as an apprenticeship of really making myself get a whole new set of tools narratively.
I like it better.
And that's what I went and did in preparation. No lower.
That's my position?
Yes, no lower than that.
And then from there, you turn me around.
My syntax is very classic syntax in Devil's Backbone and so forth. It's very classic. You know, I respect the axis. I wait for everything to finish, to link it to the next and so forth, make it very fluid. And this is all about compression. This style is all about compression. So I started studying, you know, like I don't know how many times I watched the Eminem videos, which I really like. I mean, I think they're real great pieces of film. And I watched, you know, R.E.M., which I love, Bjork, which I love, things that I could enjoy, you know. And I just realized what type of syntax they had and what type of syntax I liked that they have, because I didn't just absorb it blindly. I said, I don't like this. I don't like what they do here. I don't like what they do there. I'm going to do this other stuff. And I think that, you know, this is a fusion of what I do and what it was required.
Ready? And action!
I think Blade is a very Catholic exercise in modesty, in the sense that I was not there to make Guillermo del Toro's Blade 2. I was there to make Blade 2, the kick-ass movie.
Very good. Print, check the gate. Gabby? Gabby? We got it? Let's go.
I made a lot of notes watching my anime DVDs on what made anime unique and the type of action and violence in anime non-offensive. What is fun violence in anime action? And I made my notes, and I have a diary of ideas and notes that I keep, and I made enough notes in that to start storyboarding stuff before even we scouted locations and to settle down on a style for the movie.
One of the reasons why we came to Prague is because there were so many sets built for this film. It would have been A, too cost prohibitive to do it in the States, but B, the artisans in Eastern Europe are so amazing. I mean, that's one of the reasons you come to Eastern Europe, if you have a movie that has a lot in terms of sets.
I really enjoy the craftsmanship. The craftsmanship that they bring to sets, for example, is very, very old world. You know, the precision and the pride that they bring to their craftsmanship in creating statues, murals, stuff like that is just really amazing. And it shows in the movie for me. I think that the House of Pain, which contains around 400 extras or so, was another experience of what, to me, the Czech spirit is. I think it was the most amazing, disciplined, giving, adoring, hard-working group of extras that anyone could ever dream of. They were amazing. It was, I was expecting hell, and I got heaven. I mean, it was really, really great.
Here is my lowest. I go up from here. This is good.
And we're going to try and get up for you guys to be able to get in underneath.
Don't you worry about us.
And as soon as he's gone, she comes through. Ready? Picture, yes, mate, yes. Yeah, they're ready. All right, shooting this time, guys. We're going to shoot the rehearsal. So Ron and Matt, we're going to shoot the rehearsal, okay?
Try and reiterate what he said. Try and reiterate. You know, what Sergio said.
Wished was like in the fourth day of shoot, a couple more deodorant sticks would have been very useful. But you know, other than that, it was great.
Mom and Ron, you have to go in earlier.
I can't get under that motherfucker.
But as soon as you can.
I mean, that thing's like, there's no like.
I understand, but
I got a 5-second frame right here before it even raises. I can't even get under.
Okay, as soon as you can. Okay.
I'm a really boring guy in daily life. I don't like nightlife very much. I enjoy daylight. What I wanted in this House of Pain is to have a place where people can go and drink a human without problem, without being bothered.
Tray of razors.
Right. Kiss each other with razor blades on their mouths.
Right. And she's gonna walk here and you're gonna
mutilate each other for fun and leave scars and all that.
Open back massage. But you need to really be
on this, and then we go up and let her underneath, and then go forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's, you know, that has no comparison to anything in the real world.
This hand over here. Action.
All right. So she's to pick it up quicker, right? And these two guys are going to get him up soon.
Earlier.
Yeah.
But more fluid.
Crazy, man.
With a wide angle lens, and you're gonna capture the crown. And do whatever the fuck you want.
Think they're good?
Yeah. This couple here. Yeah. And you're gonna come here. If you were passing, you're gonna do it with the 3 lenses. Okay. We're gonna repeat the move. I need Sergio that we create a wipe here with 6 or 7 people that can repeat the move.
Reveal it.
So we're revealing it with different lenses. Boom, boom.
So you
start with a 35. Start with the 35, and we'll switch to the 50.
Start tight. 35 up. Right here.
And what you need, guys, is just to always do the same thing.
So is it revealed?
You have to put out the tongue a little more.
They were fake, I mean, they were props. They were razor blades with a sharp edge.
Good. Beautiful.
I thought that was a nice image. You know, kind of a very vampiric way to kiss.
Check the girl.
I mean, there was a significant amount in the script in terms of the way the film was. Also, on this film, we had the advantage of Peter Frankfurt, the other producer, and I had worked together before, and Guillermo del Toro was a friend of mine, has been a friend of mine for years, and we were both familiar with Carol Spears' work, and so a lot of that, we had hoped Carol Spears would do the production design even when I was in the initial writing stages of the script. So, and I had always hoped that Guillermo del Toro would end up directing it. So we had the advantage of that all being kind of a happy family.
Carol is exactly part of that family of people you want to work with again and again. And I think that what happens is now she knows the code of things I like so easily. So every time Carol shows me a set, and if I go like here, she goes, I knew it. So here's another alternative. And it's great.
I wrote scenes to a certain extent, especially once Guillermo came on and we were rewriting the script. We wrote scenes towards Carol's strengths, knowing she was so great at doing this, or expanding certain locations because she was so good. I think she's one of the best production designers in the business.
Aside from the vision that she was able to bring to it and her ability to translate Guillermo's vision into structure, she was also able to pull off some incredible stuff in a very, very condensed time frame. But she's done an incredible job, and we're in the hallway of the House of Pain now. You've seen the actual club. These are huge sets. I mean, and you could live in these things. These things are built to last. It's crazy.
Well, one of the things that surprised me about this film in terms of going from page to reality was just how damn big some of the sets are. The sewer sets in the movie, I mean, you can literally get lost in.
175 kilometers.
You've done a great job.
Not that great, I'd say.
Look down and to your left, Ron, to your left. Cut! Perfect. Breathe and check the gate. Very good. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Wes. Thank you, Leonor. Sit down.
They said before that they will all start from inside the tunnel. They will all come out chasing Ron that way. All right? Thank you. Let go. Guys, this is pictures up. Here we go. And sliding in. Apple 104, take 2, PD pulling off. Out. Ah! Action! 1, 2, 3. Eat shit, you ugly motherfuckers! Run! In there! Kill him! Take my ugly motherfuckers!
Everything is larger than life because it is a comic book.
There's no one left!
Everything is a little more exaggerated than what it normally would be. And I think that's sort of the unifying thing from set to set. Everything is like gigantic. I get teased a lot from my art department. They say that just because I'm working in metric here that I think of 1 foot, instead of 1 foot, I think of 1 meter, so my sets are all 3 times as large. I think it's because Guillermo wants large sets.
Well, the style is very different from other stuff I've done. This wanted to be like almost goth tech, a mixture of gothic and tech. We wanted to have like this run-down industrial feeling for the Eastern Europe that we present. But at the same time, we wanted to evoke what I am attracted to the most, which is Gothic architecture.
There's a coffee table book called Dead Tech that's something Guillermo and I were looking at a lot as we were working on the script. And one of the things that's great about Eastern Europe is there's all these abandoned factories, and just half the country in Prague is that, and you can get them for amazingly cheap, and they dovetail perfectly into what we're doing with Blade. And one of the things that Carol did so brilliantly is blended pieces that she built in with existing structures, and a lot of times you can't tell which is which.
Well, Gothic to me was the fusion of, since this movie required a different camera style and a different look from the other stuff I've done, I decided to try and integrate a very modern sensibility with a very sort of classic, almost ancient world visuals. We bring some Japanese anime style action into settings that are really much more 17th, 18th century architectural pieces, and those are fused. Like, for example, the layer of the vampires, it's a very modern building which is done in like late 20th century architecture style, but at the bottom of it all, as you go through several doors, there is a Roman temple. So it's a fusion of those things that makes it visually very interesting.
I think Guillermo handed me a book called Underground Rome and said, look at this for inspiration.
The whole production design in this movie wanted to evoke very fantastic sets. If it's the Damaskinos cryogenics chamber or the DNA chamber, whatever, it was almost like a James Bond on acid type of set, And if it is Damaskinos' layer, we had Mike Mignola design it or have conceptuals for it to give it a comic book feeling. And there are some images in the movie that are completely like Mike Mignola inspired. They seem right out of the Hellboy comic.
Where we used comic books as reference on the last film on Mimic, because that was a kind of a comic book thing too in another sort of way. Comic books are a very good reference for anybody to look at. It doesn't matter, comic books, video games. We
went into places that had the corroding walls that had been used to fabricate bombs during the Russian occupation of Prague, and we transformed them a little bit and made them more Gothic and made them more ancient world.
Depending on the areas we're in, the Caliban, we're just trying to keep it very bunker-like and very sort of cold, and except for this space, which is Damaskinos, which is kind of the heart of it. Everything else is kind of very textured or aged.
This movie evokes more like a fantastic underworld, whereas the first one was much more urban. And the palette of colors in Blade 2, the first one had mostly cold colors like whites, blues, steel, and we went for completely a different hue. We went for amber nights, which are like the nights in Prague are all done with sodium vapor lights. So we decided to go yellow and amber on the night and blue days. So it's a very different color palette from the first one.
It's a director's medium. They make it their own. But I think both myself and Goyer are in total sync with what Guillermo's doing.
That's what was liberating in Blade 2. First of all, to direct someone else's screenplay, and number two, to be directing someone else's screenplay that we had agreed to not try to make real, but to try to make a comic book. And, it was great.
His basic take on the movie, and I remember sitting with he and Wesley talking about it, the three of us for the first time, and how excited Wesley got and how excited I got, was to keep the movie as exciting and surprising as the first one had been, but to really make it fucking scary. Because really, the first one wasn't scary.
Well, there's two types of horror. I think there's one type of horror which I called hide and seek, which is like in Devil's Backbone or Kronos and so forth, which is more like atmosphere. It's almost like when you're playing hide and seek and you hide in a closet, and the fear of being found out and the fear of not being found out is very ambiguous. And then there is the horror that I call tag, which is playing tag, being chased by someone or something that wants to take you. And that is more the style of the horror in this movie. It's more like a tag movie.
Yes, we have those sort of boost scare moments in this film, but there's just also a number of sequences that are very creepy that have you on the edge of your seat, and that's one of the things that Guillermo is incredibly good at. One of the things we had to do in this film, because we introduced the Reapers, which are kind of the super vampires, is we had to introduce something that even vampires themselves are scared of.